You're watching News at Prime. Let's take you back now to one of our leading stories, and that is the South African government saying it's offering support to soldiers on the ground in the eastern DRC. The cabinet raising concerns about a possible full-blown war between the DRC and Rwanda if no solution is found urgently. Let's remind you that 13 South African peacekeepers have been killed over the past week after the M23 rebels took control of the city of Goma. To react now to the cabinet and in particular the defense minister speaking for the very first time, we are joined by General Moreti tonight. General, good evening to you, and we thank you very much.
Good evening. Good evening for hosting me.
General, I want to start with the clear and timely communication to the 13 families who are grieving as a result of what has happened in the DRC. I don't want to put words in their mouths. They have been speaking to us in their own words. So I want us to start the conversation there. Let's take a listen to one of the families concerned here.
If the employer is unable to communicate with them, where else could they go? So that is the situation that we're finding ourselves in. I think even the spaza shops are run better than this. I'm telling you the honest. So we don't know what is going to happen. In fact, they rely on me on that particular side. That's from Dlankomo. And I've been doing everything that I could to get information as to the state of our son.
General, let's understand it clearly here. These families are not asking for strategic communication, are they? They just want the basics around their loved ones. Do you think government has handled this well?
Look, to start with, I want to join the families by saying we as South Africans must realize that we are part of those families. Those young fellows who went to Congo, they went there to fight for us. They went there to make our country proud for having discharged its responsibilities. Yeah. So it is not those families who are grieving. South Africa must grieve as a whole, because we have lost our children, we have lost our sons, we have lost our brothers, and some of them are fathers. This is an irreversible thing which has happened to them. Yeah. So all of us are supposed to be grieving. All of us are supposed to be taking this issue very seriously, yeah, and communicate very clearly with respect. Not announcing it over the televisions and so on and so on. If a family says, these people didn't treat us well, who are we to challenge that family? Yeah. Because that family feels the pain, which we are supposed to feel.
Let me ask you this, General, and I did ask my earlier guest whether you did see, because today was a significant moment, or should have been a significant moment, because the Minister of Defense, after losing her soldiers on the ground, is going to communicate for the very first time. Did you watch that media briefing at the Union Buildings?
I was briefed. I didn't watch it. I was briefed of what the minister said. Mm. And I clearly said, I'm highly disappointed.
Why?
The spokesperson of the National Defense Force could have informed the nation about what the Defense Force is doing in terms of informing the families. We wanted strategic leadership from the minister. The minister needs to take this nation where to from here. They don't want the minister, to talk what can be spoken by a spokesperson. They want to hear strategic leadership.
Yeah.
Where to?
Yeah.
What is South Africa thinking from?
And tonight we didn't get that.
That's what disappointed me. That I didn't hear a strategic leadership giving us the way forward. I didn't hear a strategic leadership which says, what do we think about what has happened in relation to those countries and those movements which carried out that heinous crime against our people?
Let's take a listen, General. Let's take a listen to the minister's own words. Here's Enji Motsekga. I think in this instance, because we need to provide some context, she is seeking to reassure not only the families, but the nation that South African soldiers are going to remain in the DRC, but crucially, that they are safe. Let's take a listen.
So we have called for a ceasefire. I can assure South Africans that our camps have not been attacked for the past 48 hours because, unfortunately for us, when we're at Goma, your DRC forces were fighting Rwandan forces over our heads. That's where we lost the 3 people. So we had to quickly communicate with M23 to say, we're not part of the battle, so don't fight over our heads. And indeed, that's why then we agreed with them that we'll host a white flag to say, we're not part of the battle, we don't want to be dragged into it.
General, the minister has spoken. Should we take the minister at her word?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear what she said. She says people were fighting over our heads. What were we in the Congo for? For people to fight over our heads? What is that which we want there? For our soldiers to be safe? Have they gone to the Congo to be safe? What did they go there for? So, I'm not impressed by being assured that our soldiers are safe. What did they go to the Congo to do? That is the first instance. What are they going to do after their colleagues were mowed down by this so-called M23 and the Rwandan forces? Yeah. What are we going to do? What is our response?
Let me put it to you this way, General. The minister, at some point during the conversation with journalists, she says, the United Nations, we as a country are reliant on the UN to help us repatriate the soldiers, particularly those that have sadly died, and I would imagine those that need medical care. We are reliant on the UN. And I'm trying to get from you whether we should believe the minister that, one, our soldiers are safe when we ourselves cannot bring our men and women back home. So again, I'm going to ask you this question. Should we take the minister at her word?
Yes, I'm sorry to say it again. I don't understand her. So when you say we should take a word for what she's saying the United Nations, according to you, they are reliant on the United Nations. South Africa had one hospital in Africa. One military hospital was the level 3 hospital for everybody. United Nations, everybody. We had aircrafts to airlift our wounded. We had aircrafts to airlift our people out of there. Yeah. We're not relied on the United Nations. What has gone wrong for South Africa to start relying on the United Nations to bring back its own soldiers? What has gone wrong?
So let's have a listen to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, and I'll engage you on the back of what he has to say. Let's take a listen.
This could also constitute a war crime because these are peacekeeping forces that are working under the mandate of the United Nations, working under the mandate of SADC, of the AU, of multilateral platforms. And everyone in all these international platforms, there is consensus and agreement that the only way forward is a ceasefire.
What do you make of what the minister, whose job it is to engage diplomatically? Where would you say we are in this process?
Well, I agree with the minister. By the way, he's a diplomat, he can say that diplomatic, but we do not expect that. There's a difference between Minister of Defense and the Minister of International Relations. The Minister of International Relations is correct to be talking to the United Nations, to be talking to everybody else, and to say we would like to have a negotiated situation and peaceful, the ending of that thing. He's right to do that.
Yeah.
But we expect something different from the president and the minister.
Do you believe that the president should be speaking at this stage, or perhaps it should have been the president to take the nation into his confidence about what happened? Who should have spoken first?
If the president and the leadership of this country believe that this is just an ordinary thing which has happened, then the president will not speak. But if they realize this is a crisis, this is 13 men who they sent there, not for peacekeeping, by the way, I don't agree, peacekeeping in some way, but that was an intervention force, which was supposed to go there and stop the incursion into the DRC.
Yeah.
Now, if the president feels it is okay not to say anything, this is not a serious issue, well, that is his thinking. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a crisis where we need leadership. And leadership of this country is vested in the president. The president has to say something, and say something, not what the Minister of International Relations is saying. Say something which will make South Africans realize that we are a serious country.
The Minister of International Relations at some point does touch on the risk if this is allowed to go on, and that risk is that it threatens to be a full-out war between the DRC and Rwanda. Do you believe that if this is not nipped now in the bud, it is going to escalate, unfortunately?
Those of us who have been involved through the years know that West Africa didn't have strong forces. DRC is no exception. That the DRC will not be able to survive the onslaught from the east, which has happened in the past. In the past, the Zimbabweans had to come in there and drove out the Rwandese. The Zimbabweans did that.
How is it that the Rwandese are so powerful? What makes them powerful?
They are not powerful. Mm-hmm. If you make people feel that there are no consequences for their act, then they will behave like that. There are no consequences. South Africa is not spelling out that there are consequences for what is happening in the Congo. Zimbabwe did spell it out, send its assets. It's a poor country compared to us. They sent their forces there, their equipment there, and drove out Kagame's men. Not negotiate, they drove them out. South Africa is unable to do that. What does it mean to us?
Well, let's perhaps provide an answer for what you are saying, that South Africa is unable to make its presence felt, because I think that's what you are saying.
What is the problem?
Let's listen to the Deputy Minister of Defense, because I think he spells it out for us. Let's take a listen to General Olumisa.
The defunding of the National Defence Force of South Africa led to us to say the state of readiness for our defence force. We cannot guarantee that we are ready, because you are aware that we're struggling to even maintain the aircrafts, like the helicopters, which normally give cover, aerial cover, to our troops when they are under attack. So in terms of that, we hope that the Department of National Treasury and the Cabinet will rearrange some of the priorities.
There's your answer, General.
There's no answer. Why would this government, knowing that they didn't resource the Defense Force, send it there? Why were they sending it there? When they know, if what General Omisa is saying, that means they send these people on a suicide mission. That's what he's saying. I can't understand that. Now, second thing, the general is talking like South Africa is Burundi or, one of these countries. South Africa is the only country in Africa which can produce its own weapons. We don't import weapons. We produce, except aircraft and very few of these things.
General, you'll confirm this for me, but I heard for the very first time this week through a source in the military that our fighter jets, I think it's the Gripens, they can be dismantled, packaged into a larger aircraft and assembled at the destination where they are going to perhaps mount an offensive. Is that the kind of weaponry that we have? And if indeed we do have that weaponry, why did it not go to the DRC?
We have got 2 aircrafts and we have got tankers. Our aircraft can fly from here to the Congo. They can be refueled, they can maintain and control the situation there and refuel from the air. We've got C-130s, which are tankers. And we refuel these aircraft. So it is not a matter of dismantling and doing that thing. The question is, why were we not behaving the Zimbabwean way when they committed themselves to helping the Congolese and deployed their forces and sufficiently equipped them to be able to take over those ragtag armies?
General, I want us to wrap this conversation, and I want us to wrap it on the leadership question. And I'm going to say to you, before we go on a break, so that viewers know what I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you what kind of tone the president ought to strike if and when he does speak, and do you believe that he was firm enough on his Rwandan counterpart when they spoke this week? But let's take a break, and you'll give us those answers when we return. Naledi, thank you very much. All right, let's get back to the conversation with retired General Maomela Moreti. General, let's wrap up this conversation, and we are going to end with that leadership question I prompted before the break. But before we get there, earlier this week, you had a conversation with my colleague, Aldrin Sampear, and you intimated about the sophisticated weaponry that's used by the M23, and you made a suggestion that they appear to resemble the same kind of weapons that Israel has been using over the years. Have you made any confirmations around that? Are you absolutely certain now that indeed the M23 are using those weapons? And if so, who's giving them to them?
The Spike anti-tank and anti-aircraft weapons, which Rwanda is using, definitely were produced in Israel. They were used by the American forces at some point. But They are Israeli-developed weapons. And these are the weapons which were used to loop missiles which killed our people. So that is the first thing.
So General, I want us to be very clear here. You're saying that in this attack,
Yes.
it has been confirmed that the weapons used against South African soldiers were Israeli manufactured weapons.
Yes. I wish I could open my phone and show you the messages which were sent to me. It says, General, what you said now, we, as your former young people, here is the information which you are talking about. We're given that information.
So who's supplying the M23 with these weapons?
I've never left you in doubt that M23 is the baby of Rwanda. We know it is historical. There was Nkunda before, whom they supported. And when Nkunda failed to deliver, then they created another one. They created M23. M23 cannot do what it's doing. We know now they are bypassing Goma. They are going to Bukavu. Because, as I said, it has always been, the Americans were part of this. It has always been Kagame's plan, supported by Museveni, to hive off the Kivus out of the DRC into Rwanda, to be part of Rwanda. No. Bukavu is the last point of hiving Eastern Congo out of the DRC. That's the reality.
Does President Museveni still support and sees eye to eye with Kagame?
He does. I'm sure you should have seen his statement recently. He made it very clear that he supports Rwanda, and then the DRC needs to plead for mercy from Rwanda.
Let's conclude the conversation then. President Ramaphosa has a conversation with his Rwandan counterpart, President Kagame. And to your mind, President Ramaphosa's tone and attitude during that phone call, what should it have been?
President Ramaphosa should have realized that he is leading the most powerful nation economically and militarily in Africa, and Southern Africa in particular. But I know Paul very much. I've known him from he was a junior officer, I was a friend to his boss. I know him very much. I know what he could have done. He would have tried by all means to make sure that his will becomes the outcome. I know him, and his will has become the outcome. Kagame always behaves like he is a very good man. He will always say, no, let's negotiate. Negotiate while he's doing something else different. He's done that.
So you're suggesting that President Ramaphosa was outmaneuvered, outplayed?
How can I believe in it in any other way if the outcome is that President Ramaphosa didn't read the Riot Act to Kagame? And that's not what he told the nation. The nation wanted to know exactly how resolute the president is about addressing those who killed our soldiers. Did he say that?
General, final question to you. We now know that 13 soldiers have been lost. They have got to be brought back to South Africa. We also know through the defense minister that for those soldiers, those who are deceased and those who are injured, they possibly can only be brought back here with the help of the United Nations. When the president does address the nation, what does he tell us, the nation?
Well, I thought the statement by the defense minister is not a statement she makes without the president's approval. The president is in tandem with the minister. So I'm saying we are going to be told that the United Nations will be bringing our people back. We had aircrafts here. We have got the money to charter planes to go and collect them, if we are serious. We have got the money. We have got the money. We have got billions in the so-called emergency fund. What is the leadership thinking? Is this not an emergency? For them, this is not an emergency. For us who served in the military, those are our comrades. They are our colleagues. We feel for them. Now, I think this is high time this country must start thinking seriously. Here in this country, our people get buried in the villages there when they get forgotten. Where all over the world, people who die in those circumstances are buried in a particular place where we can all go there to remember them. Yeah. I think this country must start thinking seriously. Because I want to tell you, I'm not impressed until these people tell the nation something else. That we are going to go follow those who killed our comrades and make sure that they pay the price.
Do you believe President Ramaphosa is capable of using force to say, I'm going to extract my people, those who are alive and those who have sadly departed, and if it means I'm going to have to send fighter jets into that particular region, so be it. But this is the time. Is he capable of that?
If the President of the Republic, under these circumstances, cannot do what you are saying, what does he want the nation to think about him? He still believes that this nation must think he is a powerful president of the Republic of South Africa. Does he want to believe that SADC will continue to have confidence in the leadership of South Africa? Does he still want to believe that the world will take South Africa seriously? Does he want to believe that? If he can't read the Riot Act for those who killed our children, for those who killed our brothers, and he take it as one of those things, does he want to believe us, to believe that we should take him seriously? I don't think so. I don't think he believes so. Whether he will do what I think he should do is another thing. But whether he believes that we will take him seriously if he doesn't do what I'm saying, I don't think he believes himself. I don't think he believes. He looks like a man who is in a fix. What fixes him? What fixes him?
General Maomela Moreti, thank you very much for your time.